everybody, and welcome to the Remembering Akron podcast. I'm your host, Derek Maxfield, and today my guest is Dave Wakeman. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you.
Thanks for being on with us. So your story starts in 1938, and you were born in Alabama, New York.
Correct.
1938. That puts you before World War II.
Right.
And during the Great Depression.
Well, it was right after the Depression.
Yeah.
But it was hard times.
Hard times.
Yeah.
What was it like growing up during the Great Depression?
Well, my dad could tell me more about it because he was born in 1879. And, of course, he was born after the Civil War. Of course, my grandparents, I didn't have any or know them because they was born in the 1850s, before the Civil War. So I never knew them. But my dad, he was born in 1879. Of course, and I was born in 38. He was older than my mother. But there was two of us children, my brother and myself. And we grew up on a farm. I'm getting into the farm thing here now.
So you grew up in a house. Did they have running water in the house?
No running water, no inside toilet.
No inside toilet?
Right, had outside toilet. When I was little, I can remember being afraid to go out after dark.
Really?
Yep.
Do you have a chamber pot in the house?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we had a chamber pot. We use it now and then. Of course, if you had to throw up, you had the water, the bowl and the pitcher, you'd throw up in that, and folks would take care of it, But that was normal back in those days.
Mm-hmm. So cooking must have been a real chore back then, if there was no running water in the house. And
yeah. Of course, my mother, she was a good cook. Being on a farm, most all the farmers had a good cook, their wives, mm-hmm. or maybe grandparents. But we had a cook stove in the kitchen, and a cook stove had 4 grates, or 4 things you set on to cook your potatoes, meat, whatever you wanted to cook. Mm-hmm. And then the oven was in the middle, and on the right side was what they call a reservoir, and that's what you filled up with rainwater, and that would heat the rainwater for your bath and your doing dishes and stuff like that. Yeah, for taking a bath, we had an old bathtub that we would use only on Saturday night.
Only on Saturday night.
Me and my brother, we'd use the same water.
Oh boy!
We'd take turns every other week. Who got the first bath?
Uh-huh.
But that's the way it was back then, because you had no hot water tank.
Yeah.
And any time you had hot water, you got it out of the stove. And then we had an electric heater. I don't know, you probably never saw one of those, but it was an electric thing like this with a cord that ran electric. And you put it in a bucket of water and plug it in.
That sounds dangerous.
It sure probably was, but you told never touch the water. So, but that would heat the water that way. I've still got one at home in my garage.
Wow.
Out here.
Just don't touch the water.
Yeah. It wouldn't take that long to heat a bucket of water. Of course, then you cool it down to whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you use the big wood stove in the wintertime. You could use that for heat too.
Mm-hmm.
But in the summertime, you didn't use it that much. My mother, she had a kerosene stove. On the end, you had your burners here. You had 4 burners, and on the end, you had the oven where you'd cook in. Mm-hmm. And I can remember taking a glass, it probably held 2 gallons of kerosene, taking it out to the garage or the barn, filling it with kerosene, and bring it in, put it on the oil, we call it oil stove. Took it upside down, and it had a float thing there, and that would feed the burners.
I see.
Of course, the burners had a wick on, but this big around, you have to clean those every now and then. You had a special tools for cleaning the wick,
Mm-hmm. Growing up on the farm must have been a tough time. Did back then, do you remember when your folks got their first car?
Oh, that I don't. The first car that I remember my dad having was a Whippet. You probably never heard of a Whippet, have you?
I've heard of a Whippet.
Oh, okay. It was a Whippet, and we ran that until it wouldn't run no more. Mm-hmm. And the second car was an Oakland. You ever hear of the Oakland car?
No.
Yeah. No, it was an Oakland, and they were the old box-type cars, square, like,
mm-hmm.
But I got a picture of the Oakland at home. And, of course, farming with horses, we had a cutter, which you'd go for a sleigh ride in the wintertime, We had workhorses, but they would pull the cutter.
I see.
And you go out just for fun, hook up the horse and go for a cutter ride.
Like a sleigh.
Yep, yeah. And, of course, the stove used wood. Ours was wood, the cook stove. So we always got our wood out of the wood. We had about 10 acres of woods. It was a 100-acre farm. We had about 10, 12 acres of woods on it. So that's where we got all of our wood.
I see.
But in the wintertime, we had a set of bobsleds. I don't know if you know what a set of bobs are. And with runners. And you'd cut the trees down, get them man size, and put it on there and take it up to the house.
Oh, I see.
But it was all done with a crosscut saw. Two men. One man and two boys. But that was our part of our exercise of growing up,
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know what that is anymore.
Oh, I've seen those big things.
Yeah.
There's a famous picture of my great-grandfather using one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me and my brother, I'm making a table. We had an old apple barrel. I'm making it into a end table for a lamp,
Yeah.
And they cut down some trees down here on one of the side streets, and it was over at the town sheds, And I wanted a piece about this thick off from it. So I said to my brother, bring one of your saws over. I've got a couple crosscut saws, big crosscut saws. So we sawed a piece probably about this thick off of, and probably this big around. It took over 2 hours to cut one piece. And as they say, when you was out all day, that's what warmed you up in the wintertime. Because you always did your woodwork in the wintertime, to get the wood. So yeah.
Really?
No, it was a good life.
So then World War II comes along. Did that complicate life at home?
Let's see. World War II started. I was about 5 or 6 years old. I remember rationing, and they had these lookouts for airplanes. There was one about a quarter of a mile down the road from us, and if a plane went over, you'd call Buffalo and tell them there's one heading that way for the 2-engine. Or I don't know if there'd been any 4-engine passenger planes back then or not, But it was early aviation. And you'd call Buffalo and tell them the one heading their way at a certain time, and it was 2 engines. I do remember that. They had one of those in Akron up here at Five Corners. Plane spotters, you'd call them. And I can remember turning all the lights out at various times, or pulling the shade.
Brownouts.
Yep, the brownouts, yep. Blackouts, what do you want to call them.
Right.
Yeah.
Did anybody in your family serve in World War II?
No, not that I know of. I'm working on my genealogy. Of course, my dad, he passed away when I was in high school in 1954. I was 14 at the time. But if I knew then what I knew now, I would have talked about heck of a lot more.
All of us feel that way.
Because living back in the late 1800s, 1890s, 1900, he lived through all this stuff.
Right.
Where, of course, I was born 38. The Depression started in, 1929. And I can remember rationing during World War II. You had sugar, tires, had a little ration book,
Does anybody in your family a fan of Franklin Roosevelt?
That I don't know.
Just curious. Do you remember ever listening to one of his broadcasts, the Saturday Day chats?
No, I don't. No. The only thing on the radio I remember, of course, this was before television. They used a lot of radio programs. My dad would like to listen to those. There was one called Name That Tune, because we had no telephone.
Right.
But you had to call in if you knew what it was to win.
I see.
So there was a phone down the road, maybe a quarter of a mile, called Name That Tune. Fibber McGee and Molly, The Great Gildersleeve. Can't think of any other ones offhand, But that was your entertainment was a radio and newspaper. Yeah. And as I say, for your food, they had, most all your bakeries had a delivery service to the farms, every place. You wanted bread, you'd hang a milk bucket out there and leave a message there, what you wanted, maybe a dozen donuts and 2 loaves of bread. And if you wanted to stop, you'd put it was Hall's Bakery, you'd put a sign in your windows, big H, and he would look wherever the signs was, and then he would stop and know what you wanted. And you'd leave money there for him to take. Of course, the mail was the same thing. You had a letter to mail, you'd put it in the mailbox and change for the stamp, and the postmaster or rural delivery, they would put the stamp on, away goes your letter.
Great. So you went to high school at Oakfield-Alabama?
Mm-hmm.
And when did you graduate from there?
57.
57. So that's the era of the Cold War.
Right, yeah. I was in service all during the Cold War.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any interesting memories from high school?
Oh, probably the most interesting was, I don't remember why we did it. Of course, you always had a girlfriend or chummed around as guys. And one time, we didn't steal a pizza. Pantello's in Batavia was on Ellicott Street, and so we went in there, told them we were here to pick up a pizza. We don't know what name it was under, so at least they gave us a pizza. We paid for it. Of course, then they go in get their pizza. They would say probably somebody just picked it up. I can remember that, and we still talk about that. That's probably one of the funniest things.
So, what did you do straight out of high school?
Well, when I was a senior, I had my appendix out week before graduation.
Oh.
And I was in the hospital a week. I took myself to the hospital because I had 2 attacks. I knew what it was. I drove to the hospital in Batavia, Genesee Memorial, and on Monday. They took the appendix out, and I left to come home on Friday. Of course, back then we had class night on Friday. Baccalaureate, I guess it was Saturday, and graduation was Sunday, or Friday, Sunday, and Monday. I don't know which it was. And of course, you had to walk across the stage to get your diploma. Of course, I couldn't stand up straight, so of course, with just having your appendix out, you stoop a little bit. But I was there to make it.
All right.
I don't remember if I was there for class night or not, because that was the day I came home.
Yeah.
It was on a Friday night.
But you made it across the stage.
Oh, yeah. I got graduated.
So you went to the Air Force after high school?
Yeah, yep. That's another thing. There was 4 of us. We skipped school one day. We was all talking about service, What are we going to do? So we went to all 4 of the recruiters, Air Force, Navy, Army, and the Marines. And, of course, being that I had my operation just for graduation, and we was going to go in July. Well, the other 3 guys went, but I couldn't go until January of 58.
Oh. Because
the surgery. But, we all went to Lackland Air Force Base.
Did you?
Yeah. That's, they used to have 4 or 5 recruit training bases in New York, or in the United States. There was Parkland Air Force Base in California, Sampson Air Force Base in New York, Lackland.
Texas.
And then there was a couple other ones that had recruit training. Now the Air Force is just one, and that's at Lackland. Downsizing, I guess.
I see. Well, they weren't downsizing in the 1950s, though.
No, it was building up then. Yeah, because I went to hydraulics school in Amarillo, and the first station was out in California at Travis Air Force Base. Of course, we had 36s there, and we phased them out. That's when it had the 10 engines. Remember that?
Yeah.
6 props and set up a pair of jets on a wingtip. And we called it 6 a turning, 4 a burning. We phased them out, and we got 52s in. We got 30 52s. Then they was just opening up some bases, because being a Cold War. They opened up Beale Air Force Base up by Marysville, Yuba City, north of Sacramento. And the squadron we had 2 squadrons at Travis of 30, so the squadron normally 15 52s. So they split the squadrons and kept 15 at Travis and sent 15 to Beale Air Force Base. And I stayed there for 2 years, and then had an opportunity to go into missiles. So I did that, and I transferred to Griffiths Air Force Base, which was a SAC base, and finished my active duty tour at Griffiths.
I see.
So I was there probably.
Working with missiles, that's kind of scary stuff.
Yeah, you ever hear of the Hound Dog?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, the Hound Dog, it was made by North American, and the 52 carried 2 of them, one on each wing, between the fuselage and the first set of jet engines. And it was a nuclear, it was a subsonic missile, and of course the engines had to be changed because being a subsonic missile on a supersonic launch, and of course you had those 2 which carried a weapon, nuclear weapon, and then in Bombay you had 4 Quail, which all folded up, a package of them, and they would launch them, And it was just a decoy. Because now you got the 52 going someplace. And you got these 4 decoys out there. And you got your hound dogs if they ever had to launch them. Because they figured, if I remember right, if you had 100 planes heading for Russia, only 10 would make it or something,
Oh, my.
But it was a very low amount. I remember that. Of course, you had to pull alert. That's where you see guys, the crew, air crew, leave the alert shack and jump in a car and head for their 52s and crank them up. And sometimes they would taxi, sometimes they wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
But
so you were in the service when John Kennedy became president, and
let's see that. What year was that?
Well, he was elected in 1960.
60, yeah. I was in
And
there.
so you were probably still in the service during the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yeah, because we pulled alert. A lot of guys got extended for that because of that. I know Walt was talking to Walton, and he was alerted for the Cuban Missile Crisis, and the Army had alerts too for the Cuban Missile Crisis.
What did you think of Kennedy?
I thought he was good. I had no problem. He stood his ground.
It must have been quite shocking for you when he was assassinated.
Oh yeah. I was coming across Michigan at the time. When I first heard it, my mother had a brother who lived out in Michigan, and I'd taken her out there to see him. And we was coming across Canada when we got on the news, on the radio, that he'd been assassinated in Dallas. It's like, you remember things like that, like when Martin Luther King was assassinated in Memphis. I was driving truck at the time, and I'd just come out of the tunnel in Mobile, Alabama. Of course, there was a tunnel there before they had interstate. And the guy at the toll booth mentioned it to me that King had been shot in Memphis. So that's how I got that word there.
My goodness. Yeah, those are the kind of things where you remember where you were when that happened.
Yeah.
So you served in the Air Force Reserve for a number of years.
About 15.
And you spent most of your professional life as a truck driver.
About 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I just run interstate, United States and all of Canada, because we could not, running interstate, you didn't have the rights to load or unload in the same state.
I see.
Because the local agents did all of that.
Okay.
We call ourselves a commercial tourist.
All right.
But you would have weekends or something that you could go and visit something if you're sitting on a weekend, Saturday, Sunday. But you always try to be loaded for the weekend, because you could be 1,000 miles down the road with a payload instead of sitting someplace, which of course made more money then. Because if you're sitting for 2 days, you aren't making a dime.
Right. Well, you must have seen a lot of the United States during that time.
Yeah, I saw it all. Been in every state, I don't know how many times.
Including Alaska?
Alaska, we didn't go to Alaska. Anything going to Alaska went by boat out of Seattle.
Oh, okay. But everything else?
Yep. Yeah, I can remember one summer, I made 3 round trips from California to the East Coast.
Wow.
Like Ohio to California, California back to North Carolina, North Carolina back to California. I made 3 round trips back to back.
Wow.
Made a lot of miles.
My back would not take that. You must have some colorful stories, though, about your truck driving days.
Yeah. We always tell everybody that Texas or West Virginia is bigger than Texas, because if you took a club and beat it flat, it'd be bigger. Of course, West Virginia,
I see.
There's trucks. Wasn't easy, And, of course, crossing the Rockies, you always had this was before the interstates. You always had passes. You had Loveland Hound, Birth Hound, Rabbit Ear, Wolf Creek Pass. Of course, those were all 10,000 feet.
Wow.
I went over one during July, and they were still skiing up there.
July.
They were still skiing up there. Had snow up there in July. Yeah. I like running Canada. One time I had 10 shipments out of L.A. and Long Beach going to Canada, and went into Alberta, Edmonton, Calgary, and then over to Saskatoon, was drops there, and then on into Manitoba, Winnipeg. Then I loaded out of there. I remember loading out of there for Tucson, the mining company, See, we got all our orders by Western Union, these here. And some agents, big agents, had teletype. This one here came on teletype. And I think maybe this one here did too. But I dug these out just to, cause you take people nowadays, all got cell phone. They see Western Union. You still have Western Union, and if you need money to run on, you always call Western Union. Of course, you had to pay extra for that, But
that's how you communicated.
yeah, yep. And then I had a small motorcycle, which I used to hauling furniture. I built a box, and of course, you had 3 doors on the right. And a furniture van. Of course, it's set low to the ground. You've seen furniture vans.
Yeah.
And I built a box so I could load solid and still open the side door, and with a ramp, get my motorcycle out if I was and ride if I had to.
Now that's a good idea.
Yeah. Because I can remember riding down to Western Union in Boston, and of course it wasn't the safest area in town in Boston, And then one time I was in Dallas, and they had what I call them beltways now around the city, like Washington. Mm-hmm. There was probably a 4-lane highway around Dallas, but it wasn't part of the interstate. And on Sunday afternoon, I said, well, what am I going to do? Get the motorcycle out and rode around Dallas.
Nice.
All the way around in the suburbs,
Uh-huh.
But you had to stoplights and everything, because it wasn't an interstate,
Right.
Where now interstates all got ramps and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, were you married by that time?
When I was driving truck?
No. That was later.
Yep. No, truck driving for wives, probably not the best thing.
Yeah.
I know a lot of times guys would get divorced because they were always gone. You'd be gone 2-3 months at a time.
Right.
Yeah. In that type of business, like if you're hauling steel on the East Coast, you'd be home usually weekends, because you load out of steel mills and stuff.
So how is it that you found yourself married in 1975?
I decided I want to settle down.
I see.
I still had my tractor because you're the owner-operator. You own a tractor and you lease to a company.
I see.
And you pull their trailer. And you got a percentage of the haul. So decided I want to settle down. So I stopped over the road, but I had the tractor for 2 years, and it just ran local. When it was building the Southern Tier Expressway down there, it was at 86.
Something like that.
I hauled 2 loads a day cement, bulk cement tanker from the cement companies down on the river in Buffalo there, down to Belfast and Gowanda, not Gowanda, but I think the name of the town. Make 2 round trips a day. And then there was a big glass plant over in Rockport, owns Illinois Glass. And in the wintertime, I haul glass to most of the wineries. Taylor Wine down in Hammondsport, and Father Frank. There was a lot of wineries.
Right.
And of course, they made a lot of the bottles, and we'd haul bottles to those places. Baby food bottles too. Because Beech Nut, not Beech Nut. Was it Gerber's in Rochester? I think it was Gerber's.
Okay.
And Beech Nut was down by I think Little Falls East. But they made a lot of baby food bottles and wine bottles.
All right.
Yeah.
How did you meet your wife, Joan?
I met her through another couple that we knew, and they had us over for dinner one day. I think met her in August, and we got married in April.
Okay.
So it wasn't like 2-3 years.
I see.
She had 2 kids, and some people were wondering why would somebody marry somebody with 2 children, But she had pictures on the wall in the living room. I visited her, and they said, "You got money. You got pictures up there that money can't buy." Of course, they were. Let's see. Sue was born in '62. We got married in '75. 62, 72. She's about 12 or 13. Mm-hmm. Tom was a year younger.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they grew up, both married. Sue lives in outside of Cartersville, Georgia.
All right, down south?
Yep. Tom lives over in, he wasn't living in Birmingham, but he lives north of Birmingham now. He's a pilot for Executive Jet.
Oh.
I call him an airplane driver.
Both of them moved south.
Both moved south. Sue wanted to get out of the cold. She was into horses, and she still is.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. And she went to college for equine studies. She went to Casanova for 2 years, and then she went down to New Jersey. I can't think of the name of the school now. But she married a fella that was divorced. And, of course, he had 2 girls. And they were probably 6, 7, or maybe younger than that when we got married. Of course, I grew up with them. I'd like to see them a lot more, but of course I went down there twice for high school graduation. I flew down twice for college graduations. When they married, I flew down 2 more times.
Jeez.
over a period of years.
Yeah.
But I like about they're great kids, great people.
That's wonderful.
Yep.
So you're retired now.
Yep.
Well, how do you keep yourself busy?
Well, gardening's my big thing.
Is it?
My forte. Oh, yeah. I'm out there every day.
Are we talking about vegetables? Are we talking about flowers?
Both.
Okay.
Vegetables, flowers, berries, asparagus, strawberries.
Nice.
Got a nice lot there, and I bought a little extra land so I could have a good garden.
Good.
Yeah.
I understand you're active with Scouts.
Yep. Then, Tom he made Eagle Scout back in, I think, 82 or 83. Let's see, born in 64, 74, 84. Yeah. And I'm still am. As a matter of fact, we got a committee meeting tomorrow night right in this very room.
Very nice.
Yep. Yeah.
Were you a Scout when you were growing up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Didn't get very far, but you had good experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Good memories.
All right. You're also active with Hearts and Hands?
Yeah, it's a volunteer organization. It was started here in Akron, and we drive mostly to hospitals, medical appointments, take people shopping. They pay us mileage, 40 cents a mile. Mm-hmm. But everything else is volunteer,
Well, that's a really nice service.
Oh, yeah. As a matter of fact, I had a call last night. I called a lady. Tabitha gave it to me. I called her, and she said, "Well, didn't Tabitha get back to you?" I said, "No." She said, "Well, I called the doctor and canceled it because she didn't have no ride for it, So it's a lot of logistics,
Yeah.
And I'd taken her before. So.
Very nice.
Yep.
So I've saved the hardest question for last. You ready?
I don't know.
All right. So let's just imagine that a generation from now and you're gone. And let's presume that you have, either Tom or Sue have children, and they're talking about you.
What are they going to say?
Yeah. What would you hope they would say about you?
Well, golly gee, I guess it'd be up to them.
But what would you hope they said?
What would I hope? That he was pretty good for an old guy, I guess. I don't know, but I hope everything would be good.
All right, that's a great answer. And on that note, Dave, thank you so much for being on.
Thanks for listening in, and remember to tune in to the next episode of Remembering Akron.